Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. You're watching Muslim Network TV on Galaxy 19 satellite covering USA, Canada, and Mexico. Also on Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and our own website, muslimnetwork.tv. And 92 million people have already voted, and election day is tomorrow. That is two-thirds of all people who voted in 2016 elections. America is breaking all-time records in this election. If polling companies are not up to date in their science about these new voting patterns, they might be wrong again. So I think they are quite nervous about that anyway. Um, and tomorrow, election day, massive turnout are expected. I don't know how long lines are going to be. And of course, everybody else is ready. Election lawyers are all ready to fight. I mean, they have been fighting in court already, but more of them. Partisan demonstrations are already announced for November 4th and onward. But this year, also, emotions are so high that 40% of Democrats and 40% of Republicans, both sides think that some violence would be justified if other party nominee wins. That's a strange way of putting it. And firearms are being purchased in record number. Actually, popular firearms are flying off the shelf like the toilet paper in the beginning of pandemic. They are no longer available in many places. So, White House is barricading the whole White House. So what are you doing around your home? That's the question. But at the eve of election, we take time out to discuss what can we do to get faster and reliable results in election. And to help us understand these mechanics, hardware and software and system and processes, we have Professor Theodore Allen, who is going to help us think through. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Thanks for having me, Imam.
Theodore Allen is an associate professor at the Ohio State University, which could be a swing state again, although it seems that many people are not thinking it could be swing state. He's also president and founder of Fact Spread, which is a nonpartisan organization to inform people through public service advertising. Okay, so what do you think? Do you think it is good for democracy that everybody is up in arm and voting early?
Yes, generally I do.
Okay.
I think it's a great thing. And, it's taken a lot to get the very many people who aren't motivated to vote in America. There's been a lot of riling up that's had to happen to get them out of their lethargy, but it's happened and it's pretty exciting.
So what are you seeing in Ohio around you?
Well, I see for a long time there were a lot of Biden signs, but then recently I feel that the Trump people have started showing more signs and that they have gained more pride in their candidate. So it does seem like it's going to be a very close election, even in Ohio.
So everybody is asking and nobody is answering properly. When will the results be out?
Well, so as we know, Pennsylvania, it doesn't allow counting of the absentee ballots before Election Day, and that process takes time. And Pennsylvania is really the key determiner state, as I understand it. From a 538 point of view. So it could be, unless Biden has a blowout, which also could happen, it could be Wednesday or Thursday until we really know.
Wednesday, Thursday is not very far. People are thinking maybe it will take a month or more.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, and there are a bunch of court cases that could be critical. It is kind of remarkable how many ballots might wind up being thrown away in Pennsylvania because of the Supreme Court ruling, and that at least is final. But there may be other key rulings, like in Texas or there could be further rulings in Pennsylvania.
So, which results will be available most likely on, late November 3rd?
Well, my understanding is that Florida has got its act together and Ohio has its act together, and they'll likely be reporting, and those will be important states. And of course, it's very likely Michigan will report. And so I think that we'll have a pretty complete picture, but I could see a situation in which, the Pennsylvania late election ballots or other states may be late, and that could cause some mischief in that one of the candidates might declare victory prematurely.
So how come Texas and Florida has been counting vote early, but not other states? Why our system is so decentralized and everybody has a different notion of things?
Well, we are a big country. I mean, just like India and some other countries, of course, that are also big. But this decentralization has some benefits, that it provides some level of shielding and assurance that federal leaders won't make mischief or won't be as easily able to make mischief. And so it's evolved over time, and that's where we are. I do think that there has been and will continue to be pressure for more action on the state and federal level. And so we're sort of swinging back from a highly decentralized system towards a relatively centralized system.
So what do you think is getting election results right is more important, or getting results early is more important?
Well, obviously, it's an easy question. Most people would say getting them right is an important issue. But speed does matter. And we've done some studies with our local officials here and other places where we found ways to speed up the counting process and without losing quality. And, it's more complicated than a lot of people would think. In a way, you vote, they add it up. What's the big deal? But actually, if you study the path of your voter intent to its final destination, you'll see that there's a lot of movement throughout that path, and there's steps that can actually be redundant, and the process may take more time than you'd think. And a lot of it is going to boil down to how people handle those signatures from the mail-in. I mean, we have a lot of experience in doing a pretty good job of not throwing out ballots spuriously, but that could happen, and that could cause some court cases.
You're an engineer. How you became interested in all of these things?
Yes. So I went to the American Statistical Association, and the president, Fritz Schuyen, at the time, gave a call to all of us to try to help. That the United States has evolved to this situation where a lot of elections are extremely close, and to the point where the small amounts of errors in tabulating the votes can actually make a big difference. Obviously, we had that very embarrassing election in 2000 where it's very possible that voter intent was reversed. And I've also worked on cases where essentially the wrong person won because of waiting lines. So does that answer your question?
So you were approached as a scientist by non-scientists to think about it.
Yes. So I went to this, and he said, "Come up afterwards if you want to talk." So I went up afterwards, and then he said, "Hey, surprise! In fact, your where you happen to live is the most active place." In 2004, we had an election here in Franklin County, in Ohio, where Columbus is, and it was we had lines where Black people apparently waited about 30 minutes longer on average than white people, and so there was a court case, and the settlement was to hire me to help. Hire our company, which then hired me to try to help elucidate what happened. So that's how I got involved.
So So do you think in Ohio average waiting time to vote has improved since then?
Well, there's a lot of factors that influence the waiting time, and some of them have been positive. Most of them have been positive, but some of them have been negative. I do think that tomorrow we're going to have a pretty good day because of all the voters that have been taken out by no-fault absentee balloting. In fact, that was one of the most positive factors, and a lot of people would know that our Republican leadership, our current governor and lieutenant governor, when they were in the State House, were instrumental in allowing no-fault absentee balloting to occur, which I'm grateful for. So that has generally reduced the waiting lines. Early waiting has, early in-person voting has also been added, and it has also caused some problems too.
Hmm. Are these things which you're part of implementing in Ohio or suggesting, are these things being picked up by other states?
Yes, I do think so. I mean, until recently, New York State, for example, didn't have early voting much at all, as I understand it. And now they've have some amount of early voting. And then Ohio, I could see a future where Ohio might go, hopefully all mail-in voting won't continue to be viewed as a controversial thing. It seems like it wasn't for a long time. I could see a future where Ohio might go to a all mail-in state, just like Oregon and Washington State and 3 others.
So Ohio at one time, I think in 2008 elections, had something called Golden Week. So you can register and vote at the same time. What was it and what happened to it?
Yeah. So Golden Week, as you said, Imam, it was a possibility where people could get excited. I want to vote. They register, then they vote in the same week. And it was true that the Republican leadership did dial that back, and that was not necessarily a positive thing to do. But on the other hand, as a whole, it's generally pretty easy compared to most states, or I should say most states. It's about average or possibly above average in terms of being easy to vote here in Ohio.
So, which state, in your view, are doing a better job in a non-partisan way of ensuring that more people can vote, more people have confidence in their system, and are more transparent?
Well, just like many people in the election systems community, we admire Oregon. Oregon. They have great turnout. They have high satisfaction. They have low costs, and they have seemingly pretty good security. So their vote by mail system, which they've been doing in part since 1980s, has been pretty impressive, and been, I think, very influential in the election systems community. I also think New York, North Carolina, I worked on a case there one time. They actually implemented an extremely positive and open system where they run early voting with a lot of machines and a lot of access for a long period. And that really helped improve their turnout. But then partly because of the positive effects of their turnout, they became partly disenchanted and did some actions that were in the wrong direction if you favor encouraging higher turnout. And so in a way, their system right now is pretty good, but it's been a subject of a long amount of controversy.
So you're saying the Oregon and North Carolina are the leaders in improving their system and processes?
That's my personal perception. I can't speak for the whole community.
Okay, well, that's what we are talking about. What is your informed perspective? So how do a state compare their notes? I mean, these people talk to each other about how someone is doing. Are there some nonpartisan effort for people checking each other and seeing what are the best practices to adopt?
Yes. Yeah, there's the secretaries of states are the leaders of election systems in their state, and they have conferences every year. And then the vendors also have conferences. And so between those two, there's a lot of comparing notes, and there's a lot of fellowship. The states, of course, have differing levels of control over their own counties. Here in Ohio, the counties have a lot of power, but those officials also participate in conferences and share information. So whereas a place like Oregon, the counties are all unified in how they run elections. So then it's the state level that shines.
You're watching Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and I'm talking with Professor Theodore Allen, and we'll be right back after these messages.
alaikum. My name is Adam. You remember me? I appeared in so many episodes that Sound Vision has put on the market. No matter what. Hey, what's happening? Hey, oh, sorry. Lockdown is what it is. Well, continuing here. In this lockdown, Sound Vision never stops thinking about you, the viewer. We'll have to get back into production again, online and inline. Everybody in their own space, even me. Although I'm stuck with Lanisa.
Salam! Salam! Salam!
I know, you were shocked too. Well, let me continue. This is what I was going to say. Salam! 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 Cut! Finally, I get my own screen time again. Thank God. And so we invested in new equipment to bring you even better production with new songs and new singers and animations. Well, here are a few clips. And Sound Vision has brought all this into your home, making Islamic values and teachings easy. And if you know me, Adam, a multi-talented actor, well, sometimes I'm an actor and the reporter and the... Oh, that's enough. Let's move on to the next section. Well, you can watch these new episodes on our new app at www.adamsworldapp.com. We have previews happening every day on Muslim Network TV. Sound Vision has been serving generations, moving and changing with the times. We are all faithfully connected. That is a huge blessing. Your donation helps keep these programs available now and into the future. We take this job of helping tomorrow's Muslims today seriously, and you should too. Today, we need your help. Children absorb and learn from everything they encounter. Make that wholesome, positive, grounded in our faith. Together, we can accomplish our goal of raising better Muslims, better neighbors, and better citizens. Please donate generously. It's an investment in our future. But to finish, let me tell you, there are new scripts of my new mission. And it is something that I enjoy talking about. My new mission is space. Houston, we do not have a problem. Salam, see you soon.
Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. I'm talking with Professor Allen. Let's talk about the business of elections. I mean, you mentioned that when the state Secretary of States get together and probably their staff and all that and county people, and there are vendors there. So what is the size of this business of election?
Well, in a lot of ways, it's kind of small. It's less than $1 billion a year is what I've heard. Given its level of importance, I mean, you might think that's a big business, but really, there's ES&S, and then there's some others that are relatively small companies. And it's not a situation where companies are, big companies are making a lot of money. In fact, Diebold, for example, got out of the business because of the embarrassments they suffered from the election systems at the running of elections.
So, this election cycle in federal elections, they will be spending $10 billion. Probably they already spent all of that money. So it's a huge at federal level. But you're seeing the people, hardware people and all that, software people are not that many, and it's just around $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that most of the money that you hear about in this election, is exceptional. Has gone, as I understand it, 14 billion, something like that, has gone into the networks as advertisement. And you might even have advertisements appearing on your show that would be part of that. So educating the public about who to vote for is, clearly an important thing to do, and not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, of course, if there's misinformation, that's bad. But also making sure the ballots get counted is still important, although generally speaking, is much less money involved and much less money being spent.
So what's the hardware involved? There's a voting machine, and what else?
Well, it depends on how you vote. So if you vote with the old style voting that we still use here in Franklin County for a lot of our ballots, you have a direct recording equipment, which you would call voting machine, or anybody call voting machine. But then you're not done. That outputs a piece of paper. Then you walk that over to a scan machine that then scans it. But that's not done. You're done. You can leave and go in the parking lot. But that begins a journey of the scan machine and its output, which gets taken out. You could think of it like a USB plug, gets taken out, and that chain of custody gets marshaled back to the Board of Elections. And then there are machines there that assemble that information and then create the initial count. The ballots also have their journey where they go to storage in case they're needed for recounting.
So there are 3 machines involved here.
Yeah, at least, because there's the DRA machine, then there's the scan machine, and then there's the tabulation machine, and then the DRE machine and the other machine get carted back and put in storage too, and stored. And they have their logic and accuracy testing they happen to them, which may also involve additional equipment.
So who decides what are the standards and parameters of these machines?
Well, there are regulations. The secretaries of states put out directives, and then there are some federal directives and federal laws. And you'd think that the Election Assistance Commission has some say in how that happens, although they haven't been as active as you might expect. So it partly boils down to the local election officials, which are typically balanced between Republicans and Democrats and quite collegial. And the ones that I've met, and I've worked for several, have been pretty impressive people, and they wind up having a lot of say in which equipment gets purchased and how it's operated.
Okay, so are there any questions about the integrity of these 3 different sets of hardware?
Yes, definitely. Well, so recently, the new set of hardware seems to be, we analyzed the 5 vendors and their offerings and tried to see what we could say about their cybersecurity. But generally speaking, it's improved quite a bit. I'm aware that there have been machines in the past that were vulnerable even while you were voting from being hacked, over the wireless, or there were machines that could be hacked when they do their updates. So there have been concerns. There have been demonstrated possibilities of compromise. And then the voter registration databases have recently been compromised, although not as much as they were in 2016. 2016 there was a really embarrassing occurrence in Georgia that sponsored a lot of fixing.
There was, I remember after 2016 elections, there was when there was a certain percentile difference, not difference, between low margins for President Trump in Michigan, Wisconsin, and I think Pennsylvania. A lot of computer scientists came out that they are suspicious of the way these things happen. What was that controversy about? Did anybody looked into the statements issued by those computer scientists that there may be a possibility of some hack in that?
Well, yeah, I can understand why that would be a concern. I admit that I'm personally not aware of any credible evidence that remarkable result that the presidency was decided by 80,000 voters was related to hacking. To me, it seemed more clear that it was related to misinformation causing people to not want to vote for the Democratic candidate. And also for the Republican candidate, but mostly the Democratic candidate. So that's the cause that I was aware of. But you're right, it was a remarkably close election, in a sense, within the region of typical errors of the voting system itself.
Okay. So, so hardware, there is controversy, but you think 2016 didn't have any of those issues involved. Are there these, are there some system changes have been proposed which will reduce 3 machines to say 1, or, a system in which same manufacturer is not controlling all 3 machines? What are the things being discussed?
Well, I mean, actually, the current system is pretty impressive to me, anyway. As someone who's studied other election systems, that this machines seem to be safe against attacks, less vulnerable. There's a paper trail that the voter can touch and feel. Although, unfortunately, in Ohio, you can't actually read it because it's a barcode. But if you had a barcode scan reader, you could read it. And so there is a paper trail, which is good. So I don't really think of the current system as being particularly bad or problematic. Hopefully, knock on wood, that there won't be some vulnerability that I'm currently unaware of that causes some dreaded issue. My sense is that the current system is actually a lot better than it was before, and the machines, maybe most importantly, the machines have very good record of not jamming from the paper, which a lot of the old ones used to.
So do you think in all 50 states people have the same system, which you can vote by machine, but paper trail is preserved, or there is any state in which paper trail is not there?
Yeah, so there's 10% of the voters in several states are going to not have any paper trail, and that's a problem. The good news is that none of those states, as I understand it, is a particularly important state for determining the presidency. But it is a problem that about 10% of the people aren't going to have any paper trail. And it's surprising, too, in this day and age where there's been so much concern. And Ohio, for example, has laws that mandate paper trails.
So why do you think confidence in election at this time is very low? I mean, people are just a very high level of anxiety. People are unsure. People are buying guns. Other people are preparing for demonstrations. So why there's a low confidence? Because you're saying, as far as system is concerned, as far as machines are concerned, they are pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, I do think they're pretty impressive, and I think the vote by mail efforts is generally impressive and a part of improving the system. I think that people are actually, by so many of them voting, are showing actually more confidence in the system in a sense. I do think that President Trump has directly done things to cause controversy, like bad mouthing vote by mail or saying that he's ahead of Michigan, or he's literally done a lot of things, I think, intending to sow the seed so that his lawsuits may have more political support or basically more political support. So if we didn't have a participant who is directly attacking the integrity of the system by his mouth and also by delaying the mail, I think that we wouldn't have this concern about the election equipment, that there would be my impression is that there would be a general sentiment that things are getting better. I mean, definitely, I would be in favor of additional investments at the federal level and additional standardization at the state level. But I still think that the system is getting better.
Okay. So what are the top three things which you think can increase the security as well as the confidence that it is good?
Well, that's an interesting thing about the confidence. I'm not an expert on polling and about how to instill confidence, but clearly we got to fix those 10% of voters that don't have a paper trail. That's pretty important. Then the other thing I would think you could do is go to a vote by mail system in many states, reduce, and not in every case, but generally that has been associated with significantly higher turnout and lower costs and greater voter satisfaction. So I think that vote by mail, unless the president continues to politicize it, has had a lot of bipartisan support and been associated with basically, you don't have to pay for poll workers, you don't have to wait in lines, you don't have to drive, you don't have to secure a bunch of sites. Those are all costs. Those are all problems. You don't have to train the poll workers. That's a lot of benefits that can be achieved if people feel confident, and they have felt confident. If you survey the people who live in the vote by mail states, they have generally evinced a good amount of satisfaction in that mode. Now, if President Trump has already or will continue to make that mode seem like a dubious mode, then it's not totally clear what other direction people could go in. I definitely think Ohio. I wish we had locally picked the where it prints out a ballot that you can read. That would help improve satisfaction and confidence too.
So now, what are the proposals which you have which can sort of expedite gathering the results?
Well, I just realized, Imam, that I didn't mention automatic registration. That may be the most important thing that I personally think would make the system better. About 14% of people are moving around not the same people, but 14% of people are moving, and then they don't register. They try and vote provisionally. They get frustrated. And then also, if we had better voter registration database, we could send them out. Now, your question you just asked was.
No, let's stay on that one. So you're saying two things: mail-in voting, more universal acceptance of that, and I hope just like Texas and Florida, counting them as they're arriving, so you don't waste time on it. But also the universal registration. These two reforms will improve overall confidence and ease of elections. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's my impression.
Okay. So before we get to the other question, let me take a short break. You're watching Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and I'm talking with Professor Allen about election, how to get results faster and more secure. We'll be right back after these messages.
Muhammad alayhi salam sat quietly in the evening. His companion asked, "O beautiful man, why do you sit here grieving? My ummah, those who follow me, the future of their faith makes me worry till I cry. My brothers and sisters in Islam, will they be strong and carry on after I die? The prophet stood silently and prayed, his beard becoming wet as he cried for all his fears. Oh Allah, don't let this nation fade. As he pleaded through the night, the earth around him filled with tears. My ummah, those who follow me, the future of their faith makes me worry till I cry. My brothers and sisters in Islam, will they be strong and carry on after I die? La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. La 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 la. A stillness fell over the land. Companions gathered near to where the prophet lay. As Aisha, his wife, held tight to his hand, the prophet spoke again before he passed away. My ummah, those who follow me, the future of their faith makes me worry till I cry. My brothers and sisters in Islam, will they be strong and carry on after I die? My ummah, those who follow me, the future of their faith makes me worry till I cry. My brothers and sisters in Islam, will they be strong and carry on after I die? Believers, brothers and sisters in Islam, will we be strong and carry on until we die?
My wife, she's a professor at the University of Cincinnati, who's Catholic, and by her watching and listening to our 3-year-old son watch Adam's World, she ended up taking Kalima Shahada. She embraced Islam because she learned so much about Islam and the other prophets. It really affected our life in a great way, and because of Sound Vision and Adam's World, we're Muslims.
I took my Shahada 15 years ago, and I actually am from a rural part of Ohio. And so I found the catalog for Sound Vision, and I ordered the tapes and the CDs and the books, and I used those, and especially for my little daughter, that's how we basically learned our Islam, and Islam entered our hearts through the wonderful works of Sound Vision.
Okay, assalamu alaikum, brother. I just want you to know that I love the Sound Vision website, that a lot of times when I'm looking for information, especially as it relates to homelessness, domestic violence, and women issues, I go to that website, and then I see what you've written, and then I copy and paste it, and spread the word, because the wisdom is there, so I can't do any better than what Sound Vision has already done.
Sound Vision is our survival guide. It is the organization that provides skills for Muslims how to survive and thrive in this community here in the U.S.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Anam, I'm in 11th grade, and I grew up with Adam's World, and what it taught me was unity, respect, and love for the Muslim Ummah.
Adam's World is the greatest show ever made. Take me to the Kaaba, man. I love that puppet.
Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. I'm talking with Professor Theodore Allen, who is an expert in system and processes of election. So how many states have this two of your ideas, embraced in a bigger way: the mailing of votes and the registration, universal registration.
Yeah, I think that there are 5 states that have, for the last 2 elections, completely voted by mail. But and some have had great success with higher turnouts, and great satisfaction as well. Others have had a little bit less success. 5 states have done vote by, but those states haven't necessarily all done the automatic voter registration. So that, I think that's an important determinant. And then, this election, a large number of states like Ohio allow no-fault absentee balloting, which is sort of similar, but you have to request it, and then you also have to be You have to be registered in your current location. So, yeah.
Which states have that all mail-in vote?
Well, I should remember this. I'm not 100% sure, but if you look at Ballotopedia, they list all the modes. So most of the states are still voting with the paper trail using booths, not like we do here in Franklin County. There, you get the ballot, you fill it out in a booth like taking an exam, and then it goes to the scanner. That's, I think, still the most common mode. Then the up and coming mode, the most common mode, I think, second most common used to be DREs, and still probably is, where you push buttons and then maybe hopefully there's a paper trail, and that paper trail may get scanned. But then the third one that's coming up is vote by mail completely. And that one, if I had to guess, I hope I don't say the wrong thing, but obviously Washington State, Oregon, not 100% sure, but I thought I saw California. I shouldn't speculate. It's just listed on Ballotopedia.
Mm-hmm. What about this universal registration?
Yeah, I think that's my impression is that, or the Secretary of State and Governor of Oregon are very proud that they've been doing that, and that they've had this great success, and that they're still in the process of trying to get other states to emulate that. And that is actually, I think, in the I guess it's called Proposition 1 that the House of Representatives under Nancy Pelosi, they passed. So, if we get, if the Democrats get united control of the government, it could become federal law.
And what will that be?
Automatic voter registration and several other reforms too.
But can the federal government dictate a state to have automatic registration, or there will be resistance from states?
My impression is that they can. I'm not a legal expert, but they already passed this law, so I would think that they probably can.
Okay. All right. So now, what are the recommendations you have to get faster results?
Right. So so here in Ohio, we haven't always done the greatest job of keeping our voter registration up to date.
You sound like more like a Ohio nationalist. Are you planning to declare independence or something?
Well, no, I just live. Ohio's a great state. We're important. I live in Ohio. I do a lot of projects around Central Ohio, not just in election systems. So I feel very bonded with my state. Okay. And so just like many Ohioans, and a little proud too. And I've done I've done projects with New York State, New Mexico, North Carolina, Michigan, but most of my projects here.
Okay. All right. We'll that.
So yeah, what was the question? I apologize.
Okay, so what are the few ways in which election results could come out faster?
Right. So we were working with the Board of Elections here, have been very nice to us, and our students got in there and they became certified to count absentee ballots, and the provisional ballots. And they studied the process, and they found they mapped it all out, and it's more complicated than you think, all the flows that can happen of the ballots as they go through. And they see that, you're supposed to look at this database and see if the name is there. And then you look at this database and see if the name is there. And then you check the signature, and there's a process. They found that actually at least one of the databases was not needed because the other one was just dominant. They also found some other steps that really they claimed it would reduce the time by 60%, I believe. And so, if you try to engineer that vote counting process, you can sometimes get, big reductions in the amount of time it takes and the cost.
So one of the things which election commission, federal election commission or someone is thinking about is that asking all states to adopt common data format because they produce results in a different formats and it becomes confusing to tally and all those things. So what is that move and what is your recommendation on it?
Yeah, well, that sounds really a positive development. Another development that's kind of similar has to do with the software being open source. Quite a few people believe that would make them more cyber secure and easier to update. So those are the kinds of standardization steps that happen naturally in other countries, but maybe because of our size, haven't already happened yet.
So you have some thoughts about the layout of the polling places. What is that?
Yeah. So one of the projects that we worked on.
Are you collaborating with some architect in that area?
Well, we are industrial and systems engineering. And do we value architects? Yes. But do we sometimes do things that other people think are done by architects? Yes. Because how you lay things out, can really make things more efficient. We do a lot of projects where by just studying the flows of people through the system and then just trying to eliminate steps that aren't necessary by just the geometry can really help. And sometimes even using mathematics and optimization helps. What we did was in this project, we didn't exactly optimize, but we simulated the whole process. Then we moved it around and we calculated the times that it takes to get through the system with different types of layouts. And we found that we could really reduce the times, particularly on days when there weren't that many people voting. That's one of the weird things about election systems is, they sit dormant most of the time, even some of the time when the elections are technically running, there are a lot of unused resources. And so you also want to deal with that aspect of over expenditures. But of course, the most important is when there's a big possibility of a line. We also study those situations, kind of the rush period.
Where do your layouts and all these are published? I mean, is there a journal about these things, or you go to this Secretary of State's conferences and present them? How does this whole hidden invisible network works?
Well, in political science, I didn't know this, but there's been actually how you run election systems are a big part of what the researchers work on. So some of the best journals and conferences are in political science. I myself am industrial systems engineering, so if I do research like this and I present it at our Informs conference or our IISC Transactions conference, which are industrial systems engineering or operations research conferences. So those are the places where I would present it. But let's face it, political science has dedicated a lot of its energy to this, and they have some great journals in this space.
That's interesting because I'm a political scientist. I've never seen University of Chicago ever dwelling on in any course whatsoever.
Really? Well, I hear you, but like that gentleman, I'm trying to think at Reed University, I met him through expert witness work.
Maybe some universities have developed expertise in that area. And the Political Science Association conferences, also. You see, political science is more a history of politics than probably the future of politics and the mechanics of politics. But probably some universities might have developed expertise in that particular area. So you also talk about redesigning the provisional ballot counting. What is that?
Well, yeah, that was that process, which, honestly, provisional ballot counting is almost similar to absentee ballot counting, I would think. Those are people who because they moved and didn't register probably, or maybe a few other issues, their ballots weren't automatically counted when they went to vote. And so then they just put them in a pile and they're supposed to get to them and they do. And so they're pretty much like absentee ballots, but there's sometimes reasons why they're a little bit different. And so the process of, you open them up, you look at the signature, you may have a human being look at it, or you might do a scan machine. You try to see if the signature looks suspect. If it does, it goes in a certain thing. If it doesn't, it goes a different direction. Then you go Then you open up that envelope, and then you then you put it in a scan machine, and then it goes in just like a lot of other things.
Hmm. So, what is at this moment the average time it takes for people to vote? And if you apply your, design of layout of the police place, polling places, and other reforms, how does it impact?
Yeah, well, I know a lot about that aspect because I have done mostly, that's been an area of my focus in my own research. And so the average is probably, on the order of 5 or 10 minutes, even in a bad election. It's really the worst. What you really want to worry about is the person who waits the longest. And that's what I think you want to do. You want to minimize that. And so you want to allocate your machines, take into account variable ballot lengths, because a lot of times one location has a much longer ballot than another because they just have a bunch of extra issues that they have to go through. And so you want to take that into account. And then, honestly, here in Franklin County, we do have places where people wait 4 hours. And so that's not good. If we could keep that down to about 80 minutes, President Obama said 30 minutes, but I think 80 minutes is more about where our resource level might achieve.
In Georgia, reports were coming out a few months ago, and somebody recording a video of 8 hours of being live casting while waiting in lines. It seems that there is a small percentage somewhere where there are longer wait time than most of the other places.
Right.
What type of discrepancies are there?
It's probably related to this ballot length issue. That people, and if you could help with this, I'd be grateful. I'm trying to help create a national standard for how to allocate voting resources, booths or DREs, that take into account the variable ballot lengths. And sometimes there are other considerations you might want to take into account related to first-time voters or education. But anyway, the point is, if sometimes you have, like right here, there's no extra issues. You just have 3 state issues, 24 races. Right over there, they might have 3 state issues and 11 other issues because they, for some reason, want to put in a new school or a new tax or a new levy, they call it, or new laws about smoking or something. People petition, get it on the ballot. It creates ballot length diversity. Then when they try and allocate the machines, they don't take that into account. So I'm trying to help people to do that. And I could use help in getting that to happen. Part of the problem is solving the math problem is not that easy. And our methods have taken a little longer than I'd like to run.
So it's allocation of resources. That's where the politics comes in, right? That's where some people want easier access to ballot. Other places, people want a difficult access to ballot. So there are politics of things involved while mechanics, which mechanics will be accepted and which will not be accepted. So what type of politics do you encounter?
Well, I've mostly encountered, Georgia I don't want to say it because I don't know all the other states, but my impression is that Georgia has been pioneering ways to be the most obstructionist, although there's others up there. And so they've pioneered ways to try to sort of discriminate and determine. So your question was, how much politics do I encounter? I don't encounter that much. We were asked to go in and look into this situation about why Black people had to wait more than white people. My impression was, talking to all the people and interviewing, that it really was just this math of ballot length diversity that caused the discrimination. And it's also true, if you don't take into account ballot length diversity when you allocate resources, very likely you'll cause discrimination, because a lot of times the ballots are longer where different ethnic groups live.
Oh, to talk about longer ballots, in Chicago area, we have to, filling out doesn't take as much time, but if you're really thoughtful, researching and figuring out all those judges and this and that, you say, how in the world can I leave such an important position? And that is so difficult to figure it out. So the other aspect of your work is that you're not for profit, which is about educating people. So how do you educate on that, down ballot? I mean, you're not talking about the national agenda. You're talking about some smaller thing which is happening. So how do you research that? I mean, citizens need help much more than machines and software.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That when you're a county, you might spend $30 million on a new bunch of equipment. You should spend $1 million on posters, because if people waiting in line can prepare, they will then spend a lot less time when they get to the machine or the booth. And so
That's a neat idea. That's a neat idea. While you're waiting, instead of watching some stream from some silly video, you can look around and there is sort of an exhibit about voting and citizens' rights and all that. That's a neat idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not. I don't take credit for it, because many places have been doing it, and I've seen it. I mean, here, and I think it's been a great thing. Um, but that's a way to think about it, that you could spend more money on machines, or you could spend more money on preparing people so that when they get to the machine, they spend less time. So that's a big thing. The parties do hand out straight ticket voting is another key thing that I tried to support that in a Michigan work that I did, and the Republicans shot it down. But that's a great thing. If you allow straight ticket ballot voting, you can cut down, between about half a minute to about two or 3 minutes, on average, depending on where it is, the time it takes to fill your ballot out, and that then will reduce the lines and reduce the cost that your taxpayers have to spend on voting equipment.
It used to be here in Illinois, but I don't see it anymore. I don't know what processes killed it. There used to be an option of a straight vote on the party lines. I think, people having more choices, that logic probably prevailed when that thing was changed here in the state of Illinois. So what other things, why do you, I mean, what I'm fascinated by is you're an engineer, and you are interfering in our space, which is the politics. Me being a political science graduate here. And then you want to have a not-for-profit educating people about fast fact spread. This is a very difficult construct in the era of fake news. You need to have a more appealing terminology to fight the fake news. So what is that work?
Well, so I was thinking, along with some people who are also working fact spread, that we would try to inoculate the public against bad false news, and also just generally help them to understand the public policy challenges faced by the country, so that we would maybe increase just their general knowledge level. That might then, we hope, cause the politicians to become more honest and also more responsive to the actual needs. But people might fault us for being biased in some way, but we try to give a fact, then a reference, and that's it. We try not to make the facts that we pick to share be all one slanted in one way or the other.
Will you have a thinking retreat after this election to rethink how public need to be educated and how confidence could be increased in elections?
Yes, and we welcome other people to become involved. I mean, we're just a small nonprofit that is just kind of getting going and trying to find our way. We might get involved in trying to educate people about COVID. Hopefully, that won't be particularly controversial, although it seems like it might, because it's possible that might help.
Where do you live, brother? You think COVID is going to be non-controversial?
Well, that's one of the things that I feel like has happened. Is that,
I have professors.
No, I hear you, but the thing is, you have professors that, okay. Well, I hear you, but I just want to mention that 85% of Americans are kind of tuned out, and that's partly why the politicians sometimes get away with things. And it's not. I mean, definitely, there's a bunch of very riled up people, and to some extent, I'm one of them. But the truth is, there's a lot of other people who just kind of want to know what to do, and they don't have strong opinions, and so I think that they have been a little underserved, and part of the reason I think that has caused the problems has been that we have to get those guys riled up. So we wind up getting ourselves too riled up, while we're trying to rile up them so that they actually vote. If more people just natively participated, I think that the temperature would come down a bit.
Well, thank you so much, Professor Theodore Allen. You have been very helpful and helped me understand. Despite an engineer interfering in electoral processes, I hope our system and processes, which you are so focused on, will continue to improve, and participation in this election will help overall democracy go high in an environment in which people are just quite worried. And well, we can pray for those people who are worried about it. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate you being with us.
Me too. Thank you, Imam.
Thank you. And thank you, Sherdil Khan and Dr. Abdul Wahid, for producing today's show. You have been watching Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. We're always there on Galaxy 19 satellite, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and of course your iPhone and Android, and muslimnetwork.tv, our website. Peace. Salam.